Well, welcome everyone. I am so thrilled to be here all with you today. As you know, I am doing an influencer series, and it's all the people that have been a big part of my life and a big part of my book, The Tao of Influence. And their beautiful words and wisdom is actually integrated into the book, which you can right now pick up at KarenMcGregor.com. And you get a wonderful, wonderful day with me of helping people, helping yourself, and helping others through the writing of a book. So it's all about writing the book, finding a publisher, whether you want to self-publish, and marketing the book, selling the book, all those good things. So when you go there, you get that awesome gift. And if you're not interested in that, but you want to pick it up on Amazon, it's available very soon, September 15th. Here it is. It's a beauty, and very, very excited about it. So Satyen Raja is one of my personal mentors, and I had asked him 2 years ago when I was writing the book and just starting to create the contents of the book, if he would be willing to be interviewed, because he not only knows so much about influence as a world influencer, but also has a very, very deep and long history with the Tao, as well as many other spiritual avenues and concepts. And he's really gone deep with this his whole life. And so I thought he would be the perfect person to infuse this book with amazing wisdom. So today I asked him if he would be here and to be interviewed, so that all of you could have him twice, once on this beautiful interview and once, many times actually, in the book. So Satyen, welcome. I'm so grateful to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Karen. Thank you for your kind acknowledgement, and congratulations on the Tao of Influence. And folks who are listening to this is even more pertinent time to listen and to read this book and to absorb its life lessons more now than ever before. So that's what I'm going to preface our chat with today.
Well, and I really feel what you're saying, because so many people right now are wondering, what's next, and they're a little bit afraid and uncertain and wondering what is in store for them. And I really feel that your wisdom will help them in this interview and provide some really solid direction as well for people. So thank you, Satyen. I'm actually going to formally introduce you with a bit of your amazing bio, if you don't mind. All right. So, folks, Satyen is the founder and CEO of the transformational academy called Warrior Sage. Satyen has impacted over 100,000 students from over 50 countries around the world. After 35 years of rigorous study and practice in both creating enlightened business growth and developing higher consciousness, Satyen works privately with CEOs, high-impact individuals, executive teams who've mastered both the financial and public world. But now they're wanting a deeper balance, illumination, and self-realized equilibrium that he calls peak existence. Satyen has amazingly, effectively, over many years, synthesized Eastern wisdom and Western practice. And so his company, called Warrior Sage, is very reflective of that. And I just want to share on a personal note that Satyen has been a mentor of mine for many, many years. And I can't wait to have you share your wisdom with us today, Satyen. I think the first thing I really want to ask you is, you've seen what's been happening with the pandemic, and you've been privy to a lot of conversations with some very high-level leaders around what's happening in the world. And I guess where I first want to ask, because I'm very curious myself, is about how are these leaders that you're in conversation with um, perhaps having different conversations than the rest of us? Or is it the same conversation with a different angle? Because I'm really curious for my book, The Tao of Influence, when we come into a high pressure and we're squeezed, a situation where we feel squeezed, um, my belief is that our influence then really shows, who we are inside really shows up. So I'd love a little bit of your perspective on what you've been hearing and seeing, and just to share that, just to start off our interview.
Absolutely, Karen. So from my experience, there's personal and then there's professional or global level impact and considerations that are going on. On a personal level, all the leaders I'm working with, you know, they have a security within their own life. They have a security within their own status, within their own sense of well-being. So like everyone else, we have all our own insecurities. We have our challenges like everyone. Now, on a corporation level, this is where the big challenge is, because COVID came almost overnight in terms of understanding and what's going on. And week by week, month by month, is all types of information. Is it safe, not safe? How safe is it? How safe isn't it? So these conflicting ideas, informations, knowledge is what leaders have to really deal with. They have to be able to take in all these particular avenues, all these sometimes contentious viewpoints, some that are very alarmist, some are, hey, it's not so bad, and then make good sense within themselves. So part of this, the wisdom finding in this, is how to have and cultivate the good sense making that's needed to filter what is hogwash in the information that's coming through, what is alarmist, conspiracy based, which is too excitable and getting deep fears arising, as opposed to what is real information, what is clear, what is coming from authorities that don't have affiliations politically, don't have financial affiliations, but truly are there for the greater good. So this is a deep consideration. And this time for leaders and individually, all of us, is to, I feel, to really cultivate our ability to discern true from false.
Mm.
True from false. Exaggerations from both sides, all sides, from what is stable, grounded, and that has a resonance of deeper truth rather than alarmist activation.
Yes, thank you. And in fact, that's been, one of the things that I've been talking about on my YouTube channel is I've just been called to really start talking about how do we discern truth? What do we know as truth? And I'd love to know, some of the things that you help people with in terms of discerning truth.
Well, at this time, what's interesting is even through the medical systems, we're getting different information all the time. Now, some people can chalk this up to conspiracy theories saying, like we get this one news and the next week they say it's different and the next week. Well, that's how science works. Science takes information, knowledge, makes the best deduction from that knowledge, tests it and checks it out with other people in that field. And then new knowledge comes in. So the knowledge gets upgraded. For someone uneducated in that way that it's done, it can look like it's changing. It seems uncertain. How come it's changing? Shouldn't this science be solid all the way through? No, it doesn't work that way, especially with COVID, which has many unknown factors in its virility, in its spread, many, many different things, right? Its effect on individuals, on populaces. Now, as leaders, I'm not, many of us are not physicians. Those who are physicians, they're the best in the know. And I truly feel as leaders, we need to rely more on and listen to grounded physicians who are centered. They have a sound, truth, coming back to what is truth? Truth has a resonance. It has a
Mm.
sound. It doesn't tend to be alarmist. It tends to be really penetrative, goes to the core. And what's interesting about influence as opposed to manipulation Manipulation is information that comes out, which is trying to hook you into a belief system, into an arrangement, into a direction for their good, for their benefit and their gain. Enlightened influence is giving information so that you as a being can receive it and make a decision based on the congruency of how that is for the betterment of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking for and feeling for when you're listening to all the voices out there, my recommendation is to listen to and discern the voices that are there for their own good. Do they have agendas? You can feel it leaking through the field. And that's, if they do, that's great, but just acknowledge that.
Yes.
And also then feel who are the ones that are offering information for the sake of influencing you for your sake, for your happiness, for your health, for your well-being. It has a different resonance. And so if we can really start to feel for that distinction and listen up with our soul's ears for those distinctions, then we'll be able to discern deeper truth from, even if it's not false, it could be just distorting. So that's one of the factors to really cultivate and to make good use of this time to discern all this information coming in. What shall I take, first of all? What shall I receive that is for my upliftment, my betterment, and to support my good judgment? And what can I discard and let go of that is simply just riling me up, getting me addicted to being online, getting me all flustered and fear-based?
Yeah.
That is the key, because it is specifically designed, many information channels, Facebook and such, are designed to hook us into false narratives. False news travels 6 times minimum faster than true news.
Wow. Interesting stat.
So a couple of recommendations I recommend. One is to listen to a fellow named Daniel Schmachtenberger, a colleague and a friend, who gives great talks on discerning true and false and to make good sense making. We can give the spelling of the name in the postmath here. And then
Yes.
another individual friend of mine named Tristan Harris, who is a deep researcher and worked in all these social media companies and was able to share specifically how we get hooked into and how it's designed to draw our attention and get it lassoed into emotional wormholes that keep getting us to click, 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 to keep us more online.
Yes.
When we're conscious of these patterns that are affecting our minds, then we can start to let go of them and realize, oh, I've been hooked. Let me release that. Let me take a fast from that knowledge. Let me take a fast from social media for a week this weekend so I can recalibrate my own sense-making, intuition, and truth discernment.
So, Satyen, one of the pillars in my book is presence. And I know that for years you've been my mentor, my great mentor in the art of presence. And what I've noticed during COVID is that it's very, very difficult for people to be present. And part of what you're talking about is that there are things that are designed to take us away from presence and to take us away from our inner knowing. So are there particular things that you do that you could share with people here listening that would bring them back into that sense of presence?
That's a great question, Karen. Well, Tao of influence. And in Taoism, there's a very profound, simple philosophy. And I'll summate it. And that is, don't lean into things, don't lean away from things. So if you're watching information, you're listening to speakers, you're listening to someone evocative, a political leader who's smashing the other side, another political leader smashing them back on this side as an example, right? As we see in politics. If we lean into it, what happens is our emotions get hooked. We enter the matrix of their dissatisfaction, of their emotional embroilment. And if we lean too far away from it and become totally checked out, dismissive, vacant in a way, then we're also unconsciously, we don't realize it, we're also hooked by our desire to get away from it. So anything that's trying to drag us in or repel us is what we need to be aware of. If it's repelling us, it's still hooking us. And if it's calling us and dragging us in to the emotional embroilment, it's also hooking us.
Yes.
So my term for these are hooks or emotional pendulums, if you will. Now, get the idea that all these thought forms, systems, beliefs, political parties, all the different factions that are out there, what are they looking for? What do they want? The number one thing that these energies, if you will, feed on is our adherence. They feed on our presence. They feed on our connection. They feed on our attention span. Now, as spiritual warriors, as warrior sages within us all, we have to become very aware and start to, we talk about vaccine immunization. How about first having an immunization for our mind, and our hearts and our soul, and recognize they're wanting our adherence. They want us to be part of their momentum, part of their system, part of their party, part of their yelling, part of their screaming, part of their vehemency. Simply, and if we do, or the other side, let's say there's some party that we're against, very strongly against, we feel they're doing wrong, and we get really charged by it. That charge adds to unconsciously the power of that system, believe it or not. We think we're going to be against it, but the againstness is adding to the fuel of duality. And when we add to the fuel of duality and opposition, our consciousness is hooked and we're trapped in the matrix and we lose our true sense of being. So coming back to what do we do? The simple practice. Start cultivating whatever you're watching. Notice, are you leaning into it emotionally, mentally? Are you feeling yes, yes, yes? Are you feeling a vehemency rising in you for or against? And if that's the case, lean back a bit. In emotional disposition, breathe and recognize I am already free. No one can make me free. No party can make me free. No people can make me free. My freedom is sourced within. And then if you find yourself crossing your hands, pulling back, screw this, forget it all, I'm just going to run away to my cabin and to hell with the world, that's a type of despondency, a type of checking out, a type of leaning back in pessimism, which also adds to the fuel of the very thing that you're critical of. So the artistry to cultivate, and it's a cultivation, it's not a one-time thing, is to remain in the center, like a Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down from our generation, right?
Yes, yes.
But they always come back to equilibrium. So if we can have that disposition, where then we remain free, we cultivate freedom, and ultimately we become the transmission of freedom. And then we become magnetic because we're not drawing in, we're radiant.
That's so beautiful, because right now I hear a lot of people talking about feeling trapped, feeling, oh, I just wish that life were different. And this is beautiful what you're saying, because really we have the choice to be free, but we do have to be aware, right? Leaning in, backing away. I love this this concept. And I have a question for you around it as well, Satyen. So in my book, I talk about 10 ego needs, and one of them, a primary one, which I've lived with most of my life, is the need to be right. The need to be right. And so I was wondering your opinion, because you work with powerful leaders from around the world. How do you navigate that need to be right? Because sometimes it can fuel positive fire in discussions, but many times it may take away from our ability to influence and create real impact in the world.
The need to be right is usually sourced in a part of us that is unconsciously not feeling full trust in who we actually are.
Ah,
There's some part of our psyche that is still looking for mother approval, father approval, God approval, societal approval, clique approval. It's our nature. We're bodies. We're animal beings. We work in packs like every other animal. If we don't work with the pack, we'll die. So that bodily animal aspect of us needs to feel included and part of something bigger, a tribe, a group, a pack, if you will, right?
yes.
So what happens is there's two forms that we can lose our energy and our strength in our own center, our own sovereignty. And that's pointing to exactly what you're talking about. So the need to be right, imagine it's a form of self-importance. It's a form of self-importance. And there's two forms of self-importance. The self-aggrandizement, the megalomaniac, the narcissist that we see in leadership in the world. And it's like, I am right. I do it the right way. I'm the right person. I'm the best for everything. I know how to do everything. Listen to me. But it's not coming from grounded centeredness. It's just coming from a drummed up bravado.
Right.
This is a shell, a veneer. This is an identity that has been formed around the individual as a way to work with their insecurity by creating an identity that goes to the other extreme, which says, I need to be right, which generates self-importance, which you do feel strong. You might feel a false sense of power for a month, 2 months, years even. But the challenge with that is you'll shoot yourself in the foot sooner or later by the need and the lust to be right, if you will. You might not see how it might come. It might come through a divorce. It might come through some person absconding parts of your business because they've had enough of you. It could be through many ways that this can happen. But sooner or later, the universe will catch up with the self-importance of self-aggrandizement. So why bother? As one of my mentors said years ago, my Kung Fu master, he says, it's better to be humble all the time than to be humiliated all at once.
Wow. Powerful.
So that's one form of self-importance. Now there's another hidden form, and that is self-depreciation. You wouldn't think it's a way to gain importance, but you do. How lowly am I? God will see me. People will see me as such a humble individual. I'll just hide my gifts, my radiance, my truth, and I'll only share when I'm asked. An excessive form of self-depreciation or holding oneself back is another form of self-importance. One is trying to get a boon from God, trying to feel good about some bad that they did in life earlier or some off in their karma. So they're going to just shut down and be quiet for now. Both forms, self-aggrandizement or depreciation, takes us out of the Tao. It puts us into artificial identities that we're walking around wearing that are not our true self.
Well, I love what you're saying because Satyen, my next book, as soon as I finish one book, I'm already thinking about the next book. And it really is about identity and how identity has shaped us so strongly, especially during COVID. I see so many examples of people who are completely lost because they feel that they've lost one or more aspects of their identity. And I love what you're saying, because for me, the more that I strip away everything that I think I am or ought to be, or my biography, my accomplishments, it's like, as I do that, I free myself. As I do that, I actually can be more present to everyone around me. And I guess my question for you is, what are your thoughts about identity during this time in history?
Wow. Well, this is a time for the choiceful recalibration, up-leveling, polishing of our true self. More now than ever before. Those of us who are in privileged positions, like us, all of us here, many of us who are in leadership positions, we're in privileged positions. And rather than make that this is a responsibility, a sacred responsibility to have the privilege of leadership and influence and authority. It's
Yes.
not something for our ego to bolster. It's something for our soul to come into deep humility with. And so one of the things that really, I believe, sets us into the power of who we actually are and not false identities is to ask this question. And right now, I think this question I'm going to give, two questions, simple, but at this time, more potent and useful now than ever before. And that is, what is mine to do? What is mine to do? What is yours to do, Karen? My friends listening, what is yours to do in the world right now? And as important, what is not mine to do?
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with that first. I love whales. I love trees. I love the environment. But my role, I know for clear, directly, is not to impact whales or trees. It's not mine to do. There are other powerful beings, individuals, groups, organizations that are supporting that forefront. I cannot spend all my energy. It's not mine to do. It's mine to support, mine to fund, mine to donate to, mine to love, mine to encourage, to share, to expose, and get out, but not my handwork to do.
Yes.
Whereas it might be someone else's to truly do, but they haven't been doing it. So I have to now discern what's not mine to do, what's not my battles. And then what is mine to do? And
Mm.
asking myself right now. So what I've been asking myself this over the last few months, and it's come very clear for me. For me, my main focus now is awakening the consciousness, the Gaia-centric consciousness of business leaders on the planet. Why? Because I believe business leaders are the ones that are going to be destroying this planet through their directions and their incentivizations and how their systems work. Or we're the ones, business leaders, are going to be the ones that create a better world for all of us. But it all depends on the state and the connection of their consciousness to Gaia, to Mother Earth, to the world condition. That's mine to do. Can I do many other things? Yes, but that's mine to do. So, my good friends, Karen, you, what is yours to do? What is ours to do? And instead of trying to deal with the whole world, if we can come into the narrow lane of our divine gift and really honor that, because I truly believe it's already telling us right now what's ours to do. And either we're listening to that knock on the door and saying, yes, divine, I am here to listen to this inner commandment, this inner calling, this movement that calls me forth into, and that could be meditation. It could be to check out of everything I've done before. It's what's mine to do is the deepest question to ask. And the warrior part is what not mine to do, and to be able to learn to cut those strings of attachment and put it in the hands of other people who can. This
Mm.
is the work to do right now, so that we all come into battle formation for the higher good.
I love that, Satyen. Couple things on that. This morning, I was actually sharing on a YouTube video about, signs that we often miss about writing a book, just as a small example of what we're talking about. And as I wrote down all the signs and I made sure that I shared them with people on YouTube, I realized, wow, this is actually what we need to do with our deepest purpose, with our lives. Like, can we sit back and see the guidance, the signs, the yearning, the calling, and be really in tune with it? Because right now there's so much external distraction and fear that it's so easy never to arrive there. So I love what you're saying, because there are things I discovered the last few months that I'm a writer. I do many things, but I am a writer and a thinker, and it feels consistently like I'm being tugged by an invisible, love string from the divine, to write. And so I love what you're saying, because I think for all of us, especially those out there, I feel a lot of people are lost right now with their purpose. They're lost with what is mine to do. And so I love that we're bringing this up, because whether you are leading a global company, or you're parenting at home, and you're just like a little bit lost as to what the next step or direction or your deeper purpose is, I think we can all learn to trust in this process, because it's within us.
Absolutely. By asking these foundational questions daily, it doesn't mean, like you said, it's only for those who are leading huge organizations. It's also what mine to do might be to start digging a plot in my backyard and plant vegetables, which is what we started doing. We started
Yay!
a beautiful vegetable fruit garden.
I'm
We
coming
started,
over.
absolutely. We've got kale growing all over the place. And I felt, wow, that didn't seem like some earth-shattering world change, but it is. Because that touching the soil, that seeing this grow, something I've been not connected with through my own efforts, right? Through my own hands. My connection to spirit, to earth spirit, to Mother Earth is just like, I can't believe it. How simple. This is a meditation far beyond anything I've ever done. And all the farmers, anyone who raises plants and food knows this themselves, right? They're in the
Yes.
Tao, they're in the Tao deeper than most people are. They're living in the Tao without any words, right? The Tao is already living us all. It's already meditating all existence.
Yes. Yes.
If
Beautiful.
you look at the trees, if we look at nature and we just sit back, rather than meditate, what I do is I feel what's already meditating these trees, what's already meditating this plant. And then I slip into that which is already meditating existence.
Mm.
And then meditation happens. And then what needs to be done becomes more clear, because it's not from here, it's from here.
I love that. The Tao Te Ching, I really fell in love with how closely the Tao references nature. And the more that, like you, the more that I'm in touch with nature and different aspects of nature, I realize that, humans really need to learn from the path of nature, and how cyclical, and the flow, and the presence, and the just beingness, the beauty. um, I I could write a book just on that. Our lessons learned from nature. Yeah, it's a favorite topic of mine.
You know, we are of Gaia.
Mm-hmm.
We are of
Yeah.
this earth. We are of this earth plane. And, this education, self-education, as you said, to get in touch with what nature is. Like, I mean, during this COVID time, think about the whole world's production. Everything is slowed right down. It's opening up again, speeding up again. But at the very beginning, when there was stronger lockdowns and shutdowns in the first few months, Mother Nature started reviving. I heard more birds than I could ever hear. The air smelled sweeter. The life force, the prana, the chi was even more crackling, alive, and vibrant in the space.
Yeah.
What she's showing us already. We just got to cleanse our perception and listen to, and we'll know. And the ultimate influence is the Tao of influence. The Tao is the ultimate influence and is always there in every breath, in every flower, in every leaf, in every tree.
Well, that's a perfect place for us to, complete this beautiful interview, because my book, The Tao of Influence, was largely inspired exactly by what Satyen is saying right now. And I'm so grateful, Satyen, that you've been with us today and shared your wisdom. How can people continue the journey with you and learn more from you?
You can go to warriorsage.com, and there's 3 powerful trainings, if I can advise folks to come and
Mm-hmm.
download. It's totally free. There's 3. There's a training on enlightened abundance, enlightened relationship, and enlightened power. And so those are free downloads. Download them. It comes with a dojo kit so that you can do these inner exercises of transformation. Enjoy.
Thank you so much, Satyen. And I look forward to continuing the journey with you. I highly recommend anyone who's looking at taking that journey of enlightenment as a leader in your community, your family, global leaders. Satyen's got different beautiful trainings and wisdom and coaching that is just unlike anything I've ever experienced. So I really recommend that you do that. Thank you again, everybody, and look forward to your comments about the Tao of Influence. I would love to hear how it's impacting your life. Yeah, give me a shout at Karen at speakersuccessformula.com. I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey with the book. And thank you so much for tuning in today, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you all.